In recent months, South Africa's international relations have been a prominent point of discourse across the globe, both as G20 president, but also over relations now with the United States. Clarity in policy position has become vital in South Africa's participation on the global stage. Let's talk about these and other themes with former International Relations Minister Dr Naledi Pandor, who's also the board chair of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Dr. Pandor, good morning. Welcome to the program. Thank you, as always, for your time. And perhaps a slightly unusual question for you to open with is to ask for your thoughts on South Africa right now. As a senior stateswoman who is no longer in political office, what do you see as the risks to the country internally and externally beyond the US, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on?
Good morning, Iman, and good morning to all the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. As you know, I love my country, and I'm always very optimistic about it. I know that we have deeply challenging problems, made somewhat worse by the current toxic geopolitical environment. But I believe we have so many positive attributes that we can put to good use. And really, our biggest test is going to be the degree to which we marshal unity of purpose as a country and work together to advance our key objectives. We began some of that with the unusual coming together of a GNU, and now that we face this geopolitical challenge, particularly through the United States of America, I think our private sector, our public sector, our non-governmental organizations, and all our communicators need to be drawing closer together to ensure that we devise a set of strategies to advance our country's interests.
If there's time a little bit later on, I'll perhaps circle back to the GNU and some of the challenges, for example, on the part of the DA with regard to the expropriation bill. But the upcoming G20 foreign ministers meeting is expected to set the tone for the G20 summit in November this year. There's already some controversy sparked by US President Donald Trump's executive orders on his responses to the Expropriation Act. Secretary of State Marco Rubio already accusing South Africa of anti-Americanism, refusing to attend that meeting. So it's safe to say relations have soured. The US will be represented by his Deputy Chief of Mission at the US Embassy, Dana Brown. You recommended when you were on our station 2 weeks ago that we should be applying a great deal of diplomatic effort towards mending the fence with the United States, that our loyal friends should be rallied to convey South Africa's true position on a transformation, which, the topic which is at the heart of that debacle. How do you think over the last 2 weeks we've done so far in this quest of mending those fences?
Well, my feeling is that we need to look at moving much faster. I think we are dealing with a situation that requires urgent attention. I would have liked to see those envoys that President Ramaphosa mentioned departing 48 hours after he made reference to them. I don't know whether they've gone already. I've not seen reports on who they are. But I really think fast action is required. And as I said 2 weeks ago, my view is that there are more friends of South Africa in the United States of America than we often give credit to. So I'd be doing much more on lobbying. I'd be looking at the various organizations we've worked with previously. I would engage the Chamber of Business that is focused on South Africa in the United States, particularly Mr. Diamond, who I thought made comments that I found a little surprising. So there's work to be done. I also think members of Congress are concerned at what's happening and at the many executive orders and the somewhat, I think, untrammeled use of executive authority without a real reference to the separation of powers. So I do think there's space to talk to elected representatives, to engage them on these matters, and not to focus only on the White House.
This route that we're going, Dr. Pandor, which you say we're not moving quite with as much speed as we should be, what are the risks to us for not moving as quickly as you say we should?
Well, the real risk is that the misinformation that has been provided to the United States will fossilize and will assume a large proportion of reality if we do not attack it fast enough. So you should never allow wrong information to become a reality because of delayed reaction on providing information. So I am concerned that it's possible. The envoys have gone. I'm no longer in government, so I'm, not as informed perhaps as the minister might be. So it may be a good point to check exactly where we are with the undertakings announced by President Ramaphosa. I believe that the G20 foreign ministers meeting will get off the ground this week. I hope it will be attended by the majority of the G20 members. It is worrying that Secretary Rubio would not be there, but America will be represented. I think America continues to pay attention to South Africa. So we should not define ourselves as unimportant. We need to continue with the excellent work that Minister Lamula has begun to really put together an excellent G20 meeting. And I know the various other ministers of the sectoral working group meetings have put in great effort. And I'm sure the summit will be an amazing summit of leaders. So we must, march on, do the work alongside that set of initiatives to clarify and to tell the truth about our country.
What are your thoughts, and I don't want to dwell on this one too long, but perhaps just some of your hot takes on how Trump, Rubio and Doge head Elon Musk are directing US policy on South Africa?
Well, as I say, I believe it's based on misrepresentations. And for one to develop policy without checking with the official representatives of a country, the elected representatives, seems to my mind to be rather odd. But of course, I don't know on what they based their information. It's perhaps they were told horror stories by some South Africans, stories that were totally untrue. Some of this has been put at the door of AfriForum. I don't know if they are responsible for that, but it would appear that they played a strong role in it. So as loyal, patriotic South Africans, a responsibility does devolve on AfriForum to actually go and clarify that what they said was perhaps exaggerated and that, we are not carrying out any kind of program against our citizens in South Africa.
There have been suggestions and moves around charging AfriForum with treason. Is that a step too far?
Well, I wouldn't charge them with treason, but I certainly would give them an assignment. And I think those South Africans whose exports are no longer going to be going to the US, if the threat holds, they should be protesting outside the offices of AfriForum and putting all the fruit and other goods that will be wasted at the door of AfriForum and demanding payment at the same level they would have received had they been able to export to the United States of America. So I think AfriForum must be held to account, just as they claim that when they do their work as a civil society organization, they are doing it in the interest of South Africans. So let them now solve this problem that they've caused, or be made accountable for it.
Perhaps a final question on the US and just your observations about whether the US is going in a dangerous direction, even as protesters denounce what they call Elon Musk's hostile takeover of federal financial systems through the Department of Government Efficiencies.
Well, I think America is a very powerful country in the world. And when we see actions that appear vastly unrelated to existing policy and that impact on so many institutions and individuals, as part of the developing world, we should be very concerned. So I am worried both about the policy direction, about the actions which really come without due planning and without a sense that the possible implications and impact of such actions have been taken into account. And for a powerful country to behave in that way, I think is most worrying. But really what it does is it calls upon the public representatives in Senate and in the House of Representatives to begin to assert their authority, because there's a clear separation of powers. America is not run on the basis of executive orders. It is a constitutional democracy. There are public representatives that play a role in policy making, and I think they shouldn't be frozen in immobility because of shock and awe. They actually need to act and to speak out, as some have begun to do.
Dr. Pandor, South Africa has asserted its own character on the global stage. Our bilateral relationships with BRICS nations, our non-aligned stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, our position on Israel's war on Gaza, both in the ICJ and ICC. If you had to describe us to a friend, how would you?
Well, I would say that South Africa is attempting bravely to remain true to its ideals. We saw the bitter end of inhumanity, the bitter impact of lack of access to human rights, the bitter impact of the absence of freedom and democracy. And so we assumed, because of the world's role in our own freedom, a set of values and principles which mandated us that where there is harm, South Africa cannot be silent, and that we should be brave in representing the voice of those who have no representation. Just as they stood with us, we would stand shoulder to shoulder with them. This is the moral political character of South Africa. It's a dangerous value to appropriate, but it's absolutely important for a very troubled world. So I'm proud of our people, and I'm proud of our country, that we have the courage to stand up when it is necessary. And I wish more countries would be like us.
Dr. Pandor, I'm sure the role as board chair of the Nelson Mandela Foundation is rewarding and it is challenging. But do you feel like you are missing out at this controversial testing time for South Africa's foreign relations?
I did my bit for 30 years. So, I feel that I have hopefully made useful contributions. And I hope through the Nelson Mandela Foundation that I will continue to play a positive role in South African, African, and global affairs. I tend not to look back. I look forward, and I use past experience for future success.
I mean, I know that Ronald Lamola, your successor, will shape his portfolio in his way, and you've already given him, a nod or two in terms of some of the leadership that he has shown. Of course, they are not without its criticisms. Do you think it's okay if he just picked up the phone and called you for advice from time to time? Has he done it?
No, even really. He's very busy. I don't think he has time. But I left him a thick report with a number of aspirations and hopes. So far, I believe he's holding to some of those.
Dr. Naledi Pandor, thank you very much. I'll let you get back to your workday. Appreciate your time and your perspective with us this morning.